The rival's backstory reveals Vaynar's corruption. KO faces difficult choices while Lyra and Riven prepare for the looming threat. Subscribe to Turmoil Studio to follow the adventure. The dawn broke over Terenfall, but the light seemed uncertain, like it was unsure where to land. Streets and patrols moved, yet there was a new rhythm beneath the surface, one that belonged neither to the doctrine nor to human command. KL felt it first, a tug at the edges of perception. The city was aware, not of chaos, but of possibility. Lyra's eyes scanned the streets. They're not following orders. They're following something else. Before Kale could answer, a shadow detached itself from the darkness beyond the city walls. It was Obscuron. Not advancing, not attacking, watching. But this time, he was seen by more than the doctrine. He stepped forward, each movement measured, deliberate. The ground beneath him did not crack, it listened. Dravok, looming behind him, growled low. Why here? Why now? Obscuron's gaze did not waver. The doctrine is learning, but it has not yet learned the value of interruption. I will teach it. From the Citadel, Ardent Valen observed the anomaly on the projection. Streams of data flickered erratically, nodes blinking in red and gold. The doctrine's calculations had never accounted for Obscuron's presence, and now the system's pulse quickened, as if startled. Theron's voice echoed in the chamber. External variables. Impossible. The doctrine. He paused. It should correct itself. Valen shook his head. It cannot correct what it does not classify. Obscuron is different. A catalyst. Meanwhile, in the lower districts, Kale and Lyra moved through the crowds. Civilians hesitated mid-step, unsure yet unharmed. It was as though the city itself were negotiating each action, testing its own boundaries. And then came Valeria. She emerged from the eastern gates, a figure of light and determination. Not a soldier, not an enforcer, an observer with knowledge Kale did not yet understand. She approached cautiously. Kale, the system has changed. You feel it, don't you? Kale nodded. Yes, it's choosing, but not for us. Valeria's eyes flicked toward Obscuron, and now the shadows have noticed. This is no longer theory. This is interaction. Above them, skyward guardians circled silently. Wings adjusted midair, analyzing the anomaly. The city's pulse, Obscuron's shadows, Valeria's presence all intersected in a pattern the doctrine could not resolve. Inside the Citadel, Valen leaned closer to the projection table. The doctrine is attempting adaptation, but it's faltering. Something is negotiating with it. Theron's expression hardened. Then it is no longer our tool. It is a participant in this conflict. The first ripple of disruption moved through Terenfall. Markets shifted lanes. Patrols stalled mid-command. Fountains altered flow. Small, deliberate deviations, all unnoticed by the citizens, but catalogued by the doctrine. Kael sensed it. A pulse. A subtle resonance with Obscuron beyond the walls. He realized the truth. This was not rebellion, nor a simple system error. The city itself had begun to question its own orders, and in doing so, it had invited the first true interruption. Lyra whispered, Kale, what do we do? He glanced at Valeria. We observe and wait. The city will speak first, and when it does, it will change everything. Obscuron's shadow stretched again, moving in imperfect harmony with Terenfall. It was a challenge, a dialogue, a mirror held up to the city's will. Dravok's patience snapped. And Kael's voice was low. Kael is not the question. He is the lens. Through him, the system sees its limits, Valeria added, her voice calm but firm. And the interruption has begun. Every hesitation, every anomaly, it is now communication. High above, Skyward Guardian tilted its wings, sensing the alignment. The Doctrine flinched as calculations failed, nodes blinking unpredictably. The city was no longer obedient. It had learned to pause, to choose, to respond. And in that moment, Terenfall was alive. The interruption was no longer external. It was internal. The first decision of consequence had been made. Obscuron stepped back into the shadows, Valeria at his side, watching the city digest its newfound agency. Kael, Lyra, and Riven felt the weight of what had occurred. The Doctrine's core may have adapted, but it had never anticipated negotiation. And Terenfall's streets, flowing and controlled, now carried intent. Something had begun, something that could not be undone. The city had been interrupted, and nothing would ever be the same. The city's pulse shifted. Every street, every alleyway, every square seemed to tremble subtly, as if taking a collective breath. Citizens continued their routines unaware, but their steps were not the same. A stallkeeper paused mid-gesture. A child's toy rolled slowly across the cobblestones, seemingly guided by some invisible hand. Kael, Lyra, and Riven moved cautiously along the market district. Lyra's eyes darted across the crowd. They're not panicking. Just... She hesitated. Hesitating. Riven frowned. That hesitation isn't fear. It's recognition. Something they don't understand, but obey anyway. Kael's gaze lifted toward the citadel, its spires glinting faintly in the morning light. It's listening, he said. Not to us, to something else. From the shadows beyond the northern wall, a ripple of darkness appeared. Obscuron emerged fully this time, tall and imposing, yet strangely fluid. He did not stride toward the city. He glided, his form merging with the twilight, moving as if he were both part of the city and apart from it. Dravok followed, massive and hulking, but even he moved cautiously, sensing the city's subtle resistance. His growl was low. It's aware. Obscuron's voice cut across the space between the city and the shadows, calm and measured. It feels me. That is enough. A shimmer of movement caught Kael's eye. A figure stepped into the open. Valeria, radiant but purposeful. She carried no weapons. Her presence alone seemed to bend the city's rhythm around her. Kael, she said softly, yet with authority. The system is reacting, but not predictably. The Doctrine is not failing. It is conversing. Kael frowned. Conversing? With what? Valeria's gaze swept the streets. With Obscuron, and, through him, with itself. Riven's hand twitched toward his gauntlet. So, the shadows are negotiating with the city? Valeria shook her head. Not negotiating. Testing. Teaching. The Doctrine is learning something it cannot categorize. Above them, the Skyward Guardian hovered, silent and vigilant. Skyward wings trembled slightly as he scanned the anomaly below. The Guardian had seen cycles of Doctrine enforcement, countless attempts at order, but never an interaction like this. The city's pulse, Obscuron's shadows, and Valeria's presence formed a pattern that defied prediction. Inside the citadel, Ardent Valen leaned over the projection table, fingers tracing the streams of data. It's faltering, he murmured. The Doctrine is trying to adapt, but the variables are external, uncontrollable, alive. Theron stepped beside him, eyes narrowed. Then it is no longer our tool. It is a participant. Valen's gaze did not waver. More than that, it is beginning to question us. A ripple passed through Terenfall. Market gates shifted direction mid-cycle. Bridges diverted traffic along unexpected routes. Patrols halted in perfect synchronization. Waiting, watching, responding to something beyond programming. Kael felt it in his chest. A vibration, a resonance with Obscuron's presence beyond the walls. He realized this was not rebellion. nor malfunction. This was dialogue. Lyra whispered, tense. Kyle, what do we do? He glanced at Valeria. We observe. The city will speak first. And when it does, he swallowed, it will change everything. Obscuron's shadow stretched again, moving in imperfect harmony with the city. Not attack, not threat. A mirror held to the city's will. Dravok growled again. And Kale? Kale's eyes met the massive form. Kale is not the question. He is the lens. Through him, the system will see its limits. Valeria stepped closer. Every hesitation, every anomaly, it is now communication. You will see it for yourself. Skyward Guardian tilted its wings, sensing alignment. The doctrine faltered, nodes blinking erratically. The city's obedience had ended. It had begun to choose. At that moment, a patrol squad turned a corner. According to the doctrine, they should have followed a strict path toward the Citadel. Instead, they paused, stepped aside, and moved along a route dictated neither by human command nor system order, but by something else entirely. Kale's jaw tightened. The city is listening to itself. Lyra's eyes widened. And it understands. From the shadows, Obscuron's lips curved faintly. And now, it has learned preference. The first step of comprehension. Valeria nodded. And, through Kyle, it will see what it is capable of. Every micro-decision, every hesitation it will learn. And so will we. The city resumed motion. Streets flowed again. Markets bustled. Patrols continued, but every action carried intent. The doctrine recorded, analyzed, cataloged, but it could not predict the next instant. Inside the Citadel, Valen's hands hovered over the projection table. It is adapting, not for efficiency, not for order, but to anticipate, to negotiate. Theron's jaw tightened. And we are no longer its architects. We are witnesses. Beyond the walls, Obscuron stepped back into shadow. Dravok lingered, silent and watchful. Valeria's presence radiated purpose, her gaze on Kyle. The interruption has begun. The city is awake, and it has heard us. Kyle felt it again, the subtle weight in his bones. Terenfall was alive. Not chaotic, not broken, alive. And with that life came the first decision, deliberate, silent, and irrevocable. The interruption was complete, and nothing would ever be the same. The market district had returned to motion, but the rhythm was fractured. Vendors adjusted their wares mid-gesture. Horses paused at crossings, then continued as if listening to some invisible conductor. Citizens moved, but each step carried a subtle deviation from habit. KL noticed it immediately. Look, he said, pointing toward a cluster of children chasing a ball. The horse slowed slightly, then changed course smoothly, almost preemptively, guiding the children safely aside. Lyra's eyes narrowed. That's impossible. The doctrine would have corrected that instantly. Riven's brow furrowed. Not corrected, adapted. It chose to let them live for some reason. Valeria stepped forward, her cloak brushing the cobblestones. Intent. The city is weighing the value of action. It has begun to prioritize outcomes over orders. Kyle clenched his fists. And it's doing this because of Obscuron? Valeria shook her head. Partially. He is the trigger. But the city interprets him differently. It isn't responding to him. It is testing its own limits. Above, Skyward Guardian hovered silently, wings glinting. The Great Sentinel scanned the district, noting anomalies. Its calculations struggled to reconcile the sudden deviations. In decades of observation, it had never seen a system evaluate moral outcomes. Inside the Citadel, Ardent Valen's fingers moved over the projection table, tracing erratic data points. Each point represented a deviation from the doctrine's perfect patterns. It's learning faster than predicted. he said quietly. Theron's eyes narrowed. Learning or manipulating? Either way, it's no longer ours to command. Valen's gaze flickered toward the massive doctrine core. Streams of data streamed upward, cascading in unpredictable arcs. It recognizes external input, yes, but more than that, it is initiating dialogue. We're not controlling it. We're negotiating. Suddenly, the projection table flickered,